Hi everyone. Supply chain and logistics functions are a black box to many, but the actual supply chain and logistics functions is a complex interconnected system which runs the day-to-day operations of everything that comes to us in form of products. Have you ever wondered as a kid how did the milk that the milkman get come to you, or if you wondered even if a chocolate that you buy at a store, how has it gotten to the store, and what is the structure of retail distribution that has been followed to get these chocolates to your doorstep? Well, most people are still unaware as adults how their products come from. But the story doesn't end there. More and more consumers are getting informed about what they want to buy, how they want to buy, from where they want to buy, and these conscious choices are leading companies to adopt technology to create visibility and transparency in their system. But the complexity has always been engraved in our supply chains, and complexity is nothing new to us. But what adds to these complexities is the black swan events and uh, issues like pandemic and the terrorist attacks. Anything could disrupt a supply chain. Even supply shocks or a demand shock could disrupt the supply chain. So today we are here to discuss how supply chains can be made agile, resilient, and also bring in visibility, transparency, and transformation into the whole system. I would, in the context of the pandemic, I would like to introduce Mona Makram, a healthcare supply chain enthusiast, to this debate of how her supply chain has fared during the pandemic. Mona, I understand that there have been many issues that you have been facing in the past 6 months. Supply, may it be supplier secrecy, unavailability of critical medical equipment, devices, and such. So, how has your supply chain fared during this time, and how do you plan to strategize and combat this current frontline war that healthcare professionals are fighting? Mona, I cannot hear you. Can you switch on your mic? No.
Okay, now you hear me?
Yeah, yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me for this webinar, and thank you for the question. As you know, Egypt was facing a problem, and as the whole world, the coronavirus actually is a wake-up call for all the supply chain team in the healthcare. Our hospital was a struggle to cope with the COVID-19 global pandemic. Actually was working meticulously every day to secure the medical supplies and the medications, especially the products like PPE products to protect our medical teams and in addition to the patient. The COVID-19 leads the supply chain demand and supply curves to be shocked. It's like some product has been spiked upward and some product has been a spike downward. For example, all the protection items like the gloves, the mask, face mask, the gowns, the drapes, all these items has been spiked up as you cannot imagine, and some of them become more and more downward, like the elective surgery, the cold cases for the patient. We did not have any of them during this last 3 months. The cardiology, surgical, and the orthopedic surgical has been downgraded. In the beginning of the pandemic, the vital information even was not available for all the hospital operation team. We was working like reactive and for what happening in the market. And then we're making like a map for all our supplies and all our network of suppliers as well to get the items which we need and to avoid the zero stock. We was work very agile, work very fast, as you can imagine, to save the items in a minute and avoid the disruption of the supplies. Since we know exactly who the supplier and what are the products, we could be secure the constrained inventory, I can say. During this pandemic, we actually learned the hard way how the healthcare in Egypt inflicted by this disruption. But we was learned from the revolution in 2011 that we should have some strategic amount of the goods to be in a safety stock, we can say, to cover whatever happened and whatever we can face. We face also a problem regarding the payment, since the items we was normally get it in credit like 60 or 90 days, it turns to cash upfront. So the team of the supply chain team and the operation team and the team from the finance, we go together and we set together, we put a map what we need, when we need, how to get the cash on time to avoid any problem from shortage of suppliers.
Thank you, Mona, for such a heartwarming gesture adding to the complexity that the pandemic has added to your supply chain. I would now come to Shereen Gomaa to talk about how pandemic has exposed other organizations like Brimore.
Good afternoon, Chan. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you now. And at Brimore, actually, we had a supply shock as the suppliers wasn't prepared. Any of our suppliers was prepared for that. I remember the first thing I did then, I searched how similar companies to our business models got affected in the same situations before. And actually, I found that we want to have too much change in our demand, as our business model was actually founded after the World War, and it was during a recession. And I had a call with our CEO to know what his expectations for the upcoming period and so. And then I decided to take the risk and put aside all the inventory targets and numbers and focus on keeping our market share. And we raised the inventory level at once before getting to the mentioned shock. What happened is that we had changes in the customer behavior. We can't name it as a radical change, but we had around 6 to 8 weeks with focus on commodities, F&B, and sanitizing products, still getting back to our balanced portfolios from the end of May. And we had almost many S&B meetings, especially between the planning and the commercial team, to contain the changes and work on the upcoming tactics and techniques to keep the eyes on our platform. And I owe too much to our category team as they worked with our suppliers in less than a week to fabricate alcohol sanitizers, face masks to keep grabbing the customers to our platform. And then we faced some out of stocks due to the lockdown here, but we was working on inventory segmentation. We raised the stock from the A and B classes, and we took the cost associated risk then. And we faced up some out of stocks, but it was for class C. It wasn't too much affected then. And now we are trying to release all the tied stock, but not too much as we already followed the inventory policy then. And now we are getting back to our balanced portfolio, and the suppliers are started to supply as they normal. And we passed this period without having too much change in our demand now.
Thank you, Shereen. Next, I would like to call upon Serge TAIBALY. He Serge, I would like you to answer the same question from the aspect of logistics, transportation, international trade. I hear WTO is saying that international trade is going to fall by 25% this year. So how will the transportation industry cope with this? Serge, I need your mic to be on.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So what I was saying is, I think the two persons talked before, they mentioned about the supply and the way that the market was moving quite on very high level from the medical parts. Okay. And when we talk about the logistic international trade, as you know, the pandemic had huge impact in terms of deliveries, logistics, in terms of warehousing. Why? Because if you talk about Egypt, they came quite late in terms of the rise in the number of cases. Okay, so what happened is that we were operating quite efficiently, and quickly after some time the number of cases increased. Okay, and we had some people affected in the warehouse. Like we work after that, we implement couple of solution to have a split in terms of teams, so that impact a lot in terms of picking in the warehouse. Okay, then when we had these challenges, so I think the companies start looking in terms of a business continuity plan. Okay, so this business continuity plan is to also see, we were working with China, Europe, across the globe. Most of the factories or international distribution centers start closing one by one because of the pandemic situation. So we work with different approach, with building a contingency plan in every level to make sure that we get into it. Of course, it was quite crazy. If you take example of Egypt, was one of the key countries in the Middle East and Africa where they took a strong action to close the airport and the airlines. So that is having a huge effect in terms of air freight business. So most of our air freight business moved by sea freight completely. So we stopped the air freight for almost, I can say, 2 months. So no faster delivery to Egypt because of that. And then we had some challenges in terms of stocks, in terms of availability at the supplier side, at the factory, because they were not operating at 100%. So all those elements in terms of first international, the forwarder, because some of them declare as force measure, like a DHL for some time. So all those impacted a lot in terms of logistics. Okay, so when you talk about warehousing, as I mentioned, we had a different split of the team to manage the flow. So we went from 100% capacity to for some time 30% capacity. Okay, so those gap, we were not able to deliver the customer properly on that. Okay, and when you talk about the local deliveries in the country, principally in Egypt, we were having some challenges as well when delivering the customer, because our customer was not also open. So there were not any warehouse that you can deliver. Our provider also facing difficulties with the number of cases in their company. So that also have a huge impact in the supply chain logistics. So on this pandemic, it's quite of good learning in terms of multiple area, with the way that you manage with our partners, the way that you manage our warehousing, and the way that we need to tackle the business continuity plan, even with all those challenges that we face during this pandemic situation. That is an overview about the logistic international trade.
Thank you so much. In the wake of a black swan event, complexities have increased manifold, and complexity is here to stay. The complexity I'm talking about is definitely here to stay. I would like to call upon Nermeen Gamea, who heads logistics, warehousing, the whole of supply chain at a telecom industry company, to discuss how hardware, logistics, warehousing, and sourcing networks, how there is complexity in these things. and how do you tackle them? Very focused on the telecom industry.
Hi everyone. So in telecom industry, warehousing is a totally different concept because it's an asset warehouse. The telecom really depends on physical towers building, and it has a very high geographical expansion, because to cover the network, it means that you have on a certain engineering calculations, you have to build tower each certain distance. So the complexity comes from, and of course, adding over and above that, you need to change a technology of the telecom from a 3G to 4G to enhance all the platforms for voice to be over internet, and even the internet capabilities. At the pandemic situation, the situation even for telecom was harder, because everyone, all the traffic now has was immediately a peak into the internet, which comes with a variant lines. And I mean, the consumer capacity in Egypt were really depending on Vodafone and other telecom operators extremely high in order to make the connectivities. And you can imagine that the peak of at that time was coming from 200 or 300% of the normal capacity. What does it mean? That the warehousing in this case, which works as a warehouse for assets, has to accelerate the expanding of the built-in sites, and to be on our 24/7 awareness for spare parts delivery, and to assure that we can cover that. In our telecom, we had to keep a kind of safety stocks, which helped us in a way. And I think that even the companies that really depends on China, which means Huawei in a way, because Egypt is very limited to Huawei and ZTE, were really the people who really suffered to get the product out of there, because of the start of the pandemic at that end, and as well the uncertainties if the spread of the pandemic was there and to what extent, which was really hard to manage. But with some relocation of the plans from the technology teams, with a very good cooperation with logistics team, we have achieved a good level of customer service. In this situation, I think the war room has to be established in order to put your logistics capabilities along with your technology capabilities and operational capabilities and financing capabilities to pick what is needed to be done, and you act accordingly. You have to cut some of the activities that is not needed and to focus on what is needed and plan of what you have. And I think we passed it very well.
Thank you, Nermeen, for enlightening us on the complexities in the telecom supply chain industry. To build more resilient and flexible supply chains, companies may consider several options, including bringing some critical activities closer to the home, setting up backup suppliers to reduce exposure to any single supplier or country, or refining their inventory strategies. But having the right kind of technology, expertise, people, and solutions in place is critical as companies revisit their supply chain strategies. Fortunately, leveraging supply chain technology can improve end-to-end visibility, resilience, and efficiency. Within your supplier networks, advances in digital technology and automation are driving the continued evolution of supply chains. But what technologies would drive profitability and competitiveness in your supply chain is the most sought after answer in the ISCM industry today. Since technology adoption requires notable investment in tech stack, as well as greenfield change initiatives to ensure the technology drives value. Technology adoption also requires significant finance for talent acquisition and retention. This brings us to our first poll of the day. We are still in the midst of Industry 4.0, and processes have taken label of smart through integration of IoT, AI, cyber physical systems, and cloud and cognitive computing. The basic principle behind the fourth industrial revolution is that by chaining machines, intelligent devices, and systems, supply chain technologies are creating smart networks throughout this value chain, from materials to production to last mile delivery, that can control each other with critical human intervention at strategic nodes. Yvonne, can we have the poll? I think everyone's answered. Okay, it's still changing. Stop at 1 minute. Artificial intelligence is one of the most promising technologies with uses such as machine learning, vision, NLP, information processing, decision making, handling, and control speech, recognition and generation, learning from data, navigating, and movement. AI is paving the way for supply chain 4.0. According to McKinsey, more than 40% of all potential value derived from AI comes today from deep learning. Thus, let's first look at how we can leverage deep learning AI for our supply chain and what are the limitations to deep learning. This is an open question for all panelists. Mona, you indicated you wanted to talk about this, so you can start. Mike, Mona, Mike.
It is not surprising that many hospitals are beyond the curve when it comes to data treating and the AI technology. Hospitals do not, most of the hospitals do not track cost of items that are used in the operation room, for example, and still use ad hoc Excel sheets and other basic tools try to manage their supply chain. AI definitely will help to identify the cost of care, and it will help the supply chain team and the hospital management to understand where the cost saving can be achieved without impact the patient outcomes.
Anyone else would like to answer this question?
Yes, I can part of this. I mean, I can share our experience as well in Vodafone. So Vodafone wants to move from telecom in general to the concept of being a digital company. And what does it mean? That we should use all the leverage we have from the data in order to build a robust system based on new advanced technologies. In the area of supply chain in specific, the more you have of digital data, so not only manual data, it's a digital data, the longer you have, the richest you have from data point of view at the supply chain end, like the demand, the trend of the demand, the trend of the sales, the actuals procurement, the delivery of the vendor compared to the purchase order, the compliance with the lead times, the compliance of payments. All of these data can really support you in doing a good analytics, and accordingly you can build a kind of robots that can benefit of the AI technology. So if you don't have really good data, AI will not be relevant because it builds on the history and it builds on the action. So cleansing of the data, making sure that you capture all the important data that you need is a really key success to apply AI. So it's not fun to apply AI to say, I will have a robot to do 1, 2, 3. I already made 2 robots. Even if someone asks me how many teams you have, I will definitely say I have 28 FTEs and I have 2 robots. I named them, but what they do simple transactions. I cannot launch these robots and to say I will advance it by AI technology because it's machine learning. They have to act on the data for a quite longer period of time, have a good data in order to start the machine learning afterwards and the artificial intelligence.
So I would like to add something, please, after what Nermeen said. Deep learning in specific is the greatest of all applications from my point of view, and you can link it to tons of data and reactions to any platform, whether it's a website or application or so. And it's very good in determining the patterns and building on and with complicated layers. But there is a big concern regarding the testing in the deep learning. It needs too much testing to have anti-fragile and robust system. It needs a lot of trainings with layers and records of data. Therefore, it's not suitable for all companies. It's not suitable for companies with a short history, startups or so, and for companies following always new marketing techniques and the commercial techniques, as the events will always be changing, giving no room for training for the data. Thus, the model may lose its credibility because it's not used in its right place. Especially for the deep learning, not any AI application.
Okay, I can add one more point on the mainly on the leverage on the AI. I think it's a journey. It will take a long time for, I think, the supply chain to have all the AI solution. But I think everybody talks about data. Okay, so today the leverage, what we can do with this deep learning on the AI, they have 2 elements. I think we can see a positive trend moving forward is on the customer support. As you know, maybe on the banking and maybe on the telecom, they already put in place deep learning and AI for to attend the teleconference. If anyone is calling the company, like if you take a banking, so you will see maybe nowadays most of the banking solution or banking response is coming from this deep learning, because they have a lot of study behind that in terms of voice, what to reply to customer, a standard way of replying to customer. So today this is already been put in place in the banking sector, but that will come maybe future in other company, like a multinational company, some healthcare company, and different sector activity. This will be a next step. The second in terms of leverage is mainly, I can say, on the autonomous support linked to, if we take about transportation or the warehousing, all your picking trip inside the warehouse, this will give you with the data a way to see, okay, maybe your references or your components are not well situated in the warehouse, so you'll spend a lot of time movement in your warehouse, and then you're not efficient on delivering more lines to your customer. The second in the transportation, as you know, we have geolocalization, we have a track and trace solution. They have a lot of point A to point B, different sector, different country movement. So all those data will really help driving the supply chain to take the right decision. Okay, and the limit answering on that, and the limit on this AI today, they have 2 limits. First, the deep learning needs a lot of data, as everybody mentioned, and that will require a strong structure in terms of IT in the company, which today most of the company are not ready to go for the deep learning. Second is, when you talk about data, we talk about cybersecurity, and the cybersecurity today is one of the key elements to secure your data moving forward. So this is the 2 limits that we have today. Most probably with the new technology that we have, this will be covered in near future.
Thank you, everyone. So next we come to IoT. IoT is an extremely useful tool to create visibility and transparency in our supply chain. Data analytics based on real-time analytics can also help us with decision making to a great extent. How IoT and data-driven decision making in control towers is helping us deal with complexity in our supply chain. Nermeen, can you start?
Okay, so for the IoT, definitely you can use it in fleet management, especially in distribution. And I believe now it gives more advanced, not only by tracking the trucks or getting information about the truck status, but it evolved more to lively stream the driver status and the car status from safety point of view, and the platforms that can really carry all of this data and give a clear decision how can we manage our fleet is evolving deeply. Over and above the solution that comes from capacity management and how that your fleet can carry how much volumes and all of this. It comes with a lot of IoT solutions and even machine learning, because it depends on the trips that you do, especially if you have a scattered customers. If you are on the retail business, then the benefit will be much increased, more than just managing your business. If your business model is to sell to distributors, maybe this will not be that big, but if you are really going into retail or multi-locations, then IoT on fleet and deep learning on this respect is extremely high.
Thank you, Nermeen. So I understand you are using a lot of control towers since you work for a Gartner 25 supply chain company. How does the control tower help us manage all these technologies and work with them, interact with them at critical junctures? How does this happen in a control tower?
Okay, so yes, we recently deployed a control tower in Middle East and Africa for all our international trade. So the control tower, IoT, AI, all works together. They have a link between them. Okay, but today in the market we don't have one solution to combine all the elements at once, right? So we have different function in different area. So if you talk about I will come back to the IoT structure on the transportation control tower. Let me talk about the control tower. So the control tower help us in terms of to be more resilient in our supply chain today. Okay, so we saw the real impact and real solution that we got from the control tower during the pandemic situation. Okay, so we have three elements that we need to have the control tower. So first we have the real-time monitoring. Okay, so we were having I can say every 2 hours live information about all our international trade across the globe. Okay, so every 2 hours we were feeding in our system. Then one of the key elements as well, I mean, you saw during the pandemic, is exemption management. For example, we had this alert from the airport in Egypt where they were closing, so we got an alert and straight away we took a fast decision to stop all our air freight, because at the end of the day, if the air freight is coming to Egypt, it will stay at the customs and will pay huge amount of custom storage charges. Okay, so we took a straight decision at that point of time to switch all our air freight to a sea freight shipment by working with planning, with supply team and the logistics team to make things happen. Okay, so that was the key element in the control tower. And the third point or area where we see a benefit is granularity in our performance, because we monitor clearly the performance from our provider during this situation, not only during the situation, even before. So we know at any point of time you can do a daily, weekly, monthly overview of our current performance by supplier with our partners, where we stand, where we have a gap, and what is the analysis we can take it from there. Okay, so 3 elements: on-time delivery, exemption management, and the third, more managing your performance on the daily, weekly, and monthly. And when you build a control tower, there are 2 elements that company need to think about. Okay, it's a journey again. When I'm talking journey, is we started only last year. Okay, still we are improving the situation. When I'm talking journey, is there are 2 elements we need to focus. First is what you need to build. So we decided to build mainly on the transportation control tower. Okay, the second element is mainly on the supply chain control tower, which we'll take care of that on the second phase when we'll be managing the end-to-end. Okay, the more complexity we have is on the transportation, because we are interconnected with your system, your partner system, and external system. Whereas your supply chain will be internal, your internal system you will interact with. Okay, so the first transportation we started with, and the second phase is mainly on the supply chain side, where we'll take the end-to-end management from your flow. Okay.
Blockchains are interesting. They're revolutionizing how we cooperate and collaborate in flexible supply networks. With its ability to provide continuity in information, sharing how blockchain significantly helps global businesses mitigate their operational risks by ensuring reliable, tamper-proof, consecutive information flow. This question is again open for all panelists. Can I call upon Dr. Singh?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you can go ahead if you want to answer.
I mean, a blockchain concept as well, I can understand that they can support in when you have a global supply chain, because it prevents the technology needed for security as well. I don't believe the application of blockchain technology had evolved as expected till now. So I didn't see it that is really providing a lot of support, although some of the blockchain technology had been used in marketplace, and especially if you have a global supply chain platforms. Sometimes it support in global inventory management, but I didn't see a very good application for that. The perspective is high, but I would say if we are comparing all the new technologies that we introduced now for global use, I would say that robotics and artificial intelligence and deep learning will be ahead in supply chain more than blockchain, except when we see something really tangible out of that. This is my own opinion, by the way.
That's perfect. I think Shereen has dropped out. Okay.
Okay. Shanmukh, you want me to come?
Yeah, sure.
One of the biggest challenge in supply chain has been transparency, and I think what Serge is talking about through the control tower is to bring the transparency. And if you see the development of ERP over a period of time, it has brought about some kind of connectivity in data flow from all the channels of distribution, and that brings some amount of insight in its own way to see that we plan better, we execute better. But there has been a disconnection in terms of all the 3 flows of the supply chain, where information flows, material flows, and financial flows. And I think that leads to a lot of transaction cost and a lot of transaction errors, that really has made supply chain not being able to use the kind of information which would bring about the visibility and also transparency, and reduce the so-called bullwhips in the supply chain. So what does blockchain do? And I think one example I can give is of the IBM working with Merck's shipping, and they have actually made this very transparent. Now, what is blockchain is also to be very well understood. It's a distributed database. Each party on a blockchain has access to entire database. So that's something that is changing, where in all other systems, only those who held their own functional areas had the database. There is a peer-to-peer transmission in the blockchain, and there is a transparency in a big way, because it's connected throughout. Another very important aspect of blockchain is that it allows for irreversibility of records, and only people who have entered can do with the governance mechanism and approval of the IPP system in the institution or by the authorities. Then it has something very important, very strong computational logic. And as Shanmukh, you asked about IoT, you asked about deep learning. I think if you see what supply chain needs today is end-to-end integration. Blockchain becomes that back-end platform where there's a guarantee of irreversibility of records. So what Serge says about security can be maintained. And what I said in the beginning about blockchain, that there is a peer-to-peer transformation and there is a distributed database which essentially makes data available to everybody. So what happens is that people are not working on multiple data, and hence it can bring about from a silos approach to more team-based approach, where everybody in the decision support system is working on a single number, which we have been talking about for so many years in supply chain, but that has not happened. So blockchain brings that. Getting back to your earlier question of deep learning, I think blockchain with IoT blockchain with analytics helps you to get the data, and it increases the computational logic, as you talked about in the beginning, bringing a lot of insights. And a lot of insight which would be very, very critical, like what Serge is talking about in control tower. That's a kind of an end-to-end integration, but integrating your suppliers, integrating your production factory, your distributor, and also your logistics and warehousing is possible today in a more transparent way and in non-corrupt way. In fact, there's huge amount of corruption that we talked about in supply chain, which happens across the globe, and that's a matter of concern. There are numerous researchers. I think blockchain is something which will help that, and I think Merck's, and there are so many other examples that we have moved ahead. Yes, it is just in a foundation stage, as Nermeen said. It will take some time before it matures, but I think it provides a very important, platform, a very important ledger system, which is the backbone for integrating all digitalization and digital technology, including deep learning. That's it.
Thanks, Dr. Rakesh Singh.
If I may add one point overall, just to add it, when you mentioned about the control tower today, the control tower is the beginning to get the blockchain at the end, because the control tower will just give you about your interconnectivity, that what is available today, and the blockchain is going much far in terms of the requirement. For example, let's take a vegetable or any sourcing. So you will come to know from which farm until the final customer, you will know where the product is coming from. So I think it's more a next step of the control tower.
Thank you, Serge. Next, I would like to ask Mona Makram, how are new cloud computing and cognitive computing technologies are enabling breakthrough innovations in supply chain management applications delivered by SaaS models, as in SAP, JDA, the technologies? How will these help you in controlling the whole supply chain?
ERP system like SAP, like Oracle, like any AI tool, it become essential now for any supply chain, especially in healthcare. You have a lot of items in your list to buy or to control its stock, to get your stock replenished. Using ERP will help you and help the owner to save money and to save time and to get the right item at the right time. It could, using the SAP, it could save like 17% of your cost in average. When we change the hospitals from using the data sheet of Excel or a manual sheets to ERP, we have a great difference in stocking the items, in getting the item on time, in avoid the shortage of the item, especially in healthcare. It's a very crucial to find some items not there. Controlling the amount of the stocks all over the hospitals. The ERP is your eyes there, and you can control everything very easily. So using this in the hospital is essential now, I think. That's it.
Shereen, the same question to you, but from the lens of a planning and inventory specialist.
I don't want to echo what Mona said, but overall, now we have two new solutions through the software as a service. There's only softwares that provide planning techniques and planning for predictive analytics and so, and you can use it and market the events and market the marketing campaigns and market the overshooting, and it determine the patterns and seasonalities and so on. And for the cloud computing, I totally recommend Google Hadoop, where you can store your data and analyze them and manipulate whatever you need on it. Both are totally perfect. And for also the applications, there is Watson from IBM. It's totally perfect, where you can just load, and it's used deep learning, by the way, where you just load your data sets and you can take the results once. And sometimes it gives you the used models as well, if you can add it or use it anywhere else. So now we don't just depend on the ERPs, but the new softwares and the new solutions provided by the tech companies are really helpful, and they always help to increase the forecast accuracy and getting the targets for the inventory days and the carried inventory. And there are also softwares that use in segmentation and the clustering for your product, to know your fighter products, to know where to use the stock, so that to prevent any cash flow issues as well.
Mona, how has supplier secrecy disrupted the healthcare industry, and what strategies have you used to mitigate the risks arising out of supplier secrecy and, of course, from unavailability of equipment and devices?
Okay, during this pandemic, we faced a lot of disruption for our items. Some suppliers have stopped to give us the items to supply on time. Actually, everyone was suffering, the buyer and supplier alike. However, with most of the suppliers, we was having a long-term agreement with them to supply us for 1 year, and this has saved our back a lot. Especially for the items like the hand hygiene or the hand sanitizer, for example. The liter before the pandemic was cost us like 100 Egyptian pound, and during the pandemic it's raised to 300. Of course, such increase is not in the budget, but the long-term agreement has helped us a lot, that we still get it with the same price. So I believe that anyone in supply chain in the healthcare, he need to have a long-term agreements with his suppliers, and will put a lot like a roadmap. When any force majeure happen, we will know where to go. However, we are a buyer or we are a seller. For the devices, we face the problem in the ventilators, how to find in Egypt a stock on that time. We tried to import some with ourselves to cover the pandemic time, and we increased our ICU beds, like with 10 beds, 10 more beds with all the items needed to have ICU, and we have been covered. That's it.
Thank you, Mon. Nermeen, can you talk about how digital procurement can help us face challenges like supplier secrecy, unavailability of items? I understand that digital procurement, you can source from anywhere, anytime, at a price mutually decided by both the parties. So how can digital procurement help us in the process?
Okay, so digital procurement is now, I think, the wave to come, and it starts from doing the online tendering process to online vendor registration, to manage all the RFQ via submission via the, I mean, we have the platform of SAP. So SAP Ariba is one of the good platforms that can communicate or can connect the vendors with the company digitally. I think the online tendering as well is a very good tool. Is a good tool to make the process of of negotiation much clearer and more with a very high integrity, let's say. Further on, a lot of now companies like Amazon is using cognitive procurement, which is from the data available even in internet. They can come with a proposed vendors and proposed prices, and they start to make small decisions regarding the fair price that the vendors should start to propose. And if you have even more advanced technology of the deep learning, they can go into the analysis of the cost elements of the vendor and make the first offer from first offer solution from the AI, and then you can start setting prices directly with the vendor.
Thank you. Dr. Rakesh Singh, can I have a quick 2-minute answer on how can we use blockchain in this regard, coupled with digital procurement to fight supplier issues? I understand that blockchain formulates digital contracts, just like one physical contract Mona spoke about. How can digital contracts help in promoting better understanding and better collaboration between the two parties, suppliers and the manufacturers?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you for asking that. What Mona has said, or Nermeen has said, is perfectly right. Digital contracts are important element, and they also bring a very huge amount of transparency by bringing large number of buyers and sellers together, reducing the transaction costs on any platform. I would like to go a little further and say that how do we really secure a supply basis? And I think, as I said earlier, blockchain can be a very, very important element of having information coded, and these information can be irreversible. But even without blockchain or with blockchain, there are few things that are important. And I think if you see the risk that is inherent in the supply chain system, you find that it has to be understood by understanding the bill of material. What is this bill of material? What is to be produced? But what goes into that producing those material has another bill of material. Then what goes into producing those material has another bill of material, and then another bill of material. And this is called as supplier tiers: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. In fact, in the tsunami in 2013, it was one of the IT companies, I forget the name, had major problem. Tier 1 supplier said everything is available, but then they found that at Tier 13, the main material which goes into making chips is not available, and they had a huge, bad times for 3 months that they couldn't really get any supplies because of one single tire. So how do you manage supply risk? You use all your technologies, you use your all IoT, but first fundamental thing is that you need to map past to origin. Where does the origin, which is the origin of that part? Let your supplier tell you from where they make, store, and distribute the raw materials for you. Access network repository where your supply would have already mapped the data you have. So are you really mapping the supply to the data that you are doing? Are you really quantifying any risk that may happen? And are you learning from it and going lean or going more buffer oriented when you know that the supplies are not going to be there even in normal time, leave apart pandemic and any kind of this thing? It is very important for you to have a very strong connectivity with the last mile of a supplier. And I think this word last mile cannot only be used for customer, it can be used for supplier. And blockchain there can then be the the ledger that goes on to say this. And when you map everything and you map them to their origin and destination where they go, and you map them to the larger requirement of organization, then only you can mitigate risk. And I think people have really found that even in terms of sustainability, if you really see, you don't go beyond supplier 1 or Tier 1 or Tier 2. That's dangerous because you don't know the source. As Serge said, what is the traceability to the product? Yes, in a farm you can trace, but then where does the seed come from? Which company has produced the seed? What has gone into the seed? And all these matter in a big way in this kind of thing. So in all supply chain risk, where suppliers are concerned, mapping the last tier supplier is important, and blockchain can be a very, very important tool along with the intelligence and hard work of the resilience team. And I think there are 2 or 3 companies that are doing amazing work. Lamasoft and Resilink they mapped brilliantly the sources of these tires, and one can actually partner with them. And even in the force majeure situation, they have been able to create more transparency and save company from falling into the trap of contract being cancelled by looking at, if this is the problem here, which is a tire which is better, and I can move to that. I can secure my supply basis. Thank you.
Serge, when it comes to shipping, many SMEs find that freight forwards take hours or even days to send them freight quotes. All this while their customers wait and shipment dates are taken. Even when the quotes finally arrive, there is usually no transparency. SMEs have no way to ensure if they have been given the most cost-effective deal. How can digital freight aggregation platforms help in such a scenario?
Okay, thanks for the question. I think it's a good question, and mainly in our region, if you compare with the market like US, Europe, where those platforms are quite well used. Okay, when I'm talking about Uber Freight, for example. Okay, when you talk about our region and in Egypt, in that case, this solution and freight platform for SMEs, I think that will be a very good leverage in the future. Why? Because, for example, like a big scale company like Schneider Electric, where we negotiate at the global level with a huge volume, and we are going with the bigger rate, and we have getting a very good rate and a standard rate. Okay, when you are SMEs and you are mainly in our region and in Egypt, is a project-based business, where sometimes you have a one-shot shipment or one-time freight, where you will not have a volume according to that, right? So the digital freight tool, which is available already today in Egypt and in the region as well, will help us, the SME, to be much faster and to get the right cost. And on top of it, they will be able to have the end-to-end visibility from this platform. I'm taking an example. We have in Egypt and in the region, a trucker. Trucker is a platform of a truck like Uber Freight in our perimeter, where you can book a truck based on what is your requirement. You need a less truckload, you need the full truckload. You select what you want, and then you make a booking on that. And they have another platform where you book, you follow, you trace, and until you deliver the customer. So they have a two phase. The first phase, you just ask for the freight cost. The second phase is to have the end-to-end visibility from the same platform. So I think this is two will help the SMEs, and I'm sure this will be the next step of the transportation moving forward. And it's coming very fast on this point.
Thank you, everyone. This was a very enlightening discussion on technology. Moving to our next section, where we tackle technology adoption. Adoption of technology is pretty low in most countries globally. May it be Egypt, Turkey, even the highest technology adoption countries like US, the Western European countries, the maximum limit of adoption is 30%, according to McKinsey, by the end of 2020. And thus, we will tackle the issues that face low technology adoption in many countries globally. Can we have the poll? Yeah, thank you. I think it's over. Can you shut the poll, Yvonne? Yeah. Thank you, Yvonne. I would like to open the discussion to all the speakers on issues of technology and why the adoption rates are low. So you can start.
Yes. So it's all matter of, I think they have a decision that the company is making. Okay. So what is the strategy and the vision of the company? Okay. This is the first drive. If the company and the vision is not going towards this direction, okay, the first thing, this is this element. If you don't have that, it's not matter of cost or belief or solution or the talent and etc. So that will drive everything in the organization. So if you have a vision of going a digital solution, you will have automatically, you'll drive with what is missing today in the world of the technology and the solution. Today, we are moving so fast in terms of system, technology, solution, but one area is not looked at today is the talent and the way that the job function is changing. Today, for example, if we are doing a manual task and tomorrow we want to digitize, we need to make sure that the team and the talent are there to make things happen, because they will be the one putting the right things, right solution to move on to digital solution. So if the vision is not there on the digitization and you don't build the right talent, you will not be able to move on the next step, even the cost is higher, or they don't have a belief, or they don't have such a requirement. This too is a key element to move on the next step on the digitization. Okay, so this is my view. I think It's really something that really important in the organization today. So the vision will determine where the company is to go and what is the solution we need to build.
Thank you, Serge. Anyone else?
I would like to say something, please. Before going, hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Shereen.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Before following the trend of the AI and the machine learning and so, we should first know what is our goal, and like what Serge said, what's our vision from that process, and the key questions we need to answer before selecting, preparing the data, and knocking the whole door. Checking our traditional models, and if I'm talking about the planning and inventory, the traditional models we are using and the percent error from that, and applying some traditional ways to know what's the main predictors that shape our demand. It may be socially predictors, but they are with high weight. And after doing this, we can be able to solve around 60 to 70% from our pain point. And then we need to search for the talent, like what Serge said, and we need to merge the skills of the data science with our demand planners or the demand predictors, whether it's for the sales, for the buying products, or for the shipments, or whatever our industry is. And then we can know we can use AI applications and machine learning models and so to know the effective factors, the known and the unknown factors that are used. And firstly, before using the AI applications, we should kill the silly tasks that our team is doing and use somehow process automations or RPAs, like what Nermeen said before, many robots or so to automate the main tasks. Then after that, we can go and work for the AI applications, not just following the trend and saying the word that we need to digitize our company and so. We should do this with a clear vision, and it should be a multifunctional project and multifunctional decision to take this big step later.
Thank you, Shereen. This brings us to the last section of our webinar today. So we talked a lot about issues, but one of the major issues is integrating people and technology together. Integrating people and technology together, and how they need to go hand in hand to create a future supply chain that is more resilient, agile, flexible, or even transformative or groundbreaking. So I would like to call upon Nermeen. Nermeen, you are part of a wonderful concept by the name of ISCM. Could you share your thoughts on how to integrate people and build a bionic supply chain?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I will just comment on this, because I totally agree. The talents that we are looking for in the future supply chain is totally different than before, because as you see, most of the simple activities that maybe the normal clerks were doing in the function of procurement or warehousing can be now done via modern tools. And now we need more people with solid analytics background. They can understand trends. They can actually support in designing the artificial intelligence that's needed for the business, that build the strategic relations with vendors, be a business partner for the stakeholders. We are no longer looking to have people who just do activities, but to build relations. This is the thing that technology cannot really provide. This is the human factor that needs to be there. The whole business community with the digitalization movement in a lot of business sectors are coming more to customers, and the competition will be fierce to make sure that you satisfy customer demand, or you will be even more to know and to expect what the customer wants in order to serve him first. So it's a big burden or a big challenge for companies to change from being very I want to choose the right word, to be very heavy in movement or to be very slow to a very fast moving, even in sophisticated offers that can be even to B2B business. If you are not there first, and if we don't know what the customer wants, you will be out of the game very soon, because a lot of rivals are coming. Small companies are initiated with a good technology, and they can immediately disrupt your business in no time. So the talent that we need in supply chain in the future will really depend on, or will really focus on, having very strong analytical skills, be a very good business partner for the stakeholders, especially in sales and marketing, and definitely in production, but to be the arm that can know what they want and to try to find a solution, not to issue an order, only issue an order or do a tender. No, it's far beyond that. To know how to scan. I like what the professor had said, that we should go even deeper, not to tier 1 vendors. We should know exactly who is tier 2 and who is tier 3 suppliers. And by the way, the pandemic situation that happened, we didn't yet feel what might happen to some business sectors if tier 3 suppliers stopped, because it will disrupt the whole chain, but you don't know them. You will know them later when a shortage in supply will start to happen. So I think this is the talents that we need in the future for supply chain operation.
Any other speaker would like to add something on this?
Shanmukh, I want to come in for 2 minutes here.
No.
And I think two elements that will go beyond skill building and capability building is also that we need to protect employees, provide and ensure safe working environment, plan how to maintain operation while protecting employees. I think post-pandemic, this is emerging as a major theme in most countries in the world, like India, like Egypt. This is going to be the defining moment for the human element of, keeping employees within plant, within sourcing site, within warehouses. And I think protecting employees will become a very important element too. Adjust workforce capabilities according to this particular current situation in such a way that they understand. And that means that there is need for training employees even at the bottom of the business pyramid in multitasking as we adopt technology. One, what would be that multitasking? How do you train them? How do we make them, current, suitable for the changes in the business, and create and ramp up a roadmap for employees to be part of the changing dynamics of technology and how it impacts business. I think this is something that needs to be done. Two, we also need to move from functional areas that companies operate as marketing, company operate as supply chain, sales. There are a lot of politics within the functional areas. They operate in their silos, and using technology, we need to minimize this silo by bringing transparency, bringing visibility, and bringing a kind of framework where we adopt something called integrated business planning or advanced SNOP, where people meet and technology dictates and people enable that to make a single number forecasting or single number planning, which really streamlines organization even at the granular level. So this is something that is needed. So people are very important, and protecting them post-pandemic is going to be an amazing challenge working from home is going to be an acceptable paradigm, and this thing in the long run, why should people come to offices when they can be productive from home? How do you facilitate the changing dynamics of work and work-life balances? That is going to be very critical. Thank you. So I think this is very important element in the whole process, and we need to really move forward with this. Anybody else has any take on this? Because I think Shanmukh's network has fallen, is not to be seen. So I'll continue with that. Anybody has a take on this?
I can add on what you said. I think is what Nermeen and you mentioned is very important, and I think retaining the talent during the current situation is key. Why? First is when the business will be back, you will have your talent already available. You will not need to go in the market to find the talent. Okay, so you will save some time. So really true. This is a key to move on that. Additional to one element that when you talk about this AI and digital things and etc. So one of the elements I think we didn't touch base, and it's really critical and really important. For example, at Schneider Electric, when we develop any tool or any new technology and any new solution, we think customer first. Okay, so what we will implement will have a positive impact to our customer, yes or no. If yes, then we move forward on the deployment on the solution. Okay, I think this is very key. So the talent people is very important, and at the end you need to make sure that the solution that you have is driving the customer demand and customer expectations.
All right. Let me add a little simpler questions to the debate to both of you. What is the organizational drive towards training and building new capabilities for the changing supply chain of future? Right, Shereen, if you can go ahead and answer that question.
Can you repeat the question again, please, Doctor?
What are the initiatives organizations are taking today in order to increase the capability of people and make them ready for the digital supply chain or new technology supply chain?
Actually, by the end of 2019, we had an internship opportunity for some students and some graduates from mainly from engineering backgrounds, and give them the opportunity to work on projects related to the AI applications and the visualization projects. And we integrated some projects with our ERP system to make them get prepared for the near future challenges that they will face when they are graduated. And we enforced our employees and the new hiring requirements to know at least one programming language to help them to accelerate their tasks, automate their processes, and work on when the new people are hired through the supply chain departments or through the data analytics unit. They should know through their training period one programming language and one visualization platform, whether it's we are using currently Microsoft Power BI, or they can know Tableau or any tools that help them to book their seats in the future. And we are working on a development plan with our newly hired people, and they all the employees to develop themselves and work through developing and acquiring new to fit the new requirements for the jobs in the recent days.
Serge, what is your take on this?
Okay, so what Schneider developed is, as you know, the current situation is due to the market situation is quite challenging. Okay, so what they develop is we will be we open a kind of open talent pool. It's a system where you can create a project, or you can select some potential candidate inside the organization without going outside. So as mentioned by Shereen, so also giving additional projects, additional requirements linked to the digitization. One of the examples for that is we are doing sometime with the team a kind of optimization project where they will deal with the global team, they will deal with the local function, they will deal with the different function, and to be more wider in terms of thinking on the deployment. So that has been things. So open talent, creating new project, giving them opportunity to do something what not on their day-to-day job, but more linked to the visibility to the organization in terms of regional or global, so they can also explore different ideas across the company and see what they can put in place in the organization. So it's more towards the learning and the personal development to move on the next step on this point.
All right. All right, I think there's a question. We'll take 2-3 questions from the audience, and we have few questions already here, and some of them have been answered, so I will be ignoring them. The question that is to Shereen is the human dimension is back, and it will play a prime role in rebalancing the global supply chain during this crisis and well beyond. Any attempt that your organization has taken to do this? This is from Ishwar Padmanabhan from Dubai.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. The human dimensions of a supply chain and what initiatives have been taken.
Okay, through the previous days, we didn't just follow the numbers and the trends that appeared through our demand and sales forecast. The human interface was highly appreciated and very weighted for the subjective reasons. The numbers that was going out from our models was messing up, as the models didn't use didn't know the event from their beginning. We gave all the purchasing requests manually to add the numbers that we need and that we are seeing, regardless the number that got out from our models and statistical models and so. So the human interference was greatly through the past days, and I think after this period as well, we should mark that event to get to use our models again in order to release the season for some products or the unsold products. As well, the purchasing guys did a great job. The demand was totally intermittent, and we didn't know what will be sold tomorrow, why this is selling now, what will happen tomorrow, and why this is happening. So they tended to deal more with the suppliers. We started to use the power levels, and the suppliers made the stock, and we don't take it until we need it, and they were really cooperative in this to share the occasion with us. And then we try to take the ready prepared stock if we got overshooting. And all of this were held somehow or with about 60% manually with the human interference.
Right, thank you. There is a question from Nesrin Ilkobai. Do you believe you have the IT resources for digitalization, that is e-invoicing, e-procurement? Serge, if you can take that question.
So the question, if I understood well, is if we have the right level of support from the IT perspective, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Yes, it's a very good question. By the way, so just to answer, yes, we have right level of support in terms of IT infrastructure. For example, we have a specific department because Schneider work on this digital tool for a long time now. We started from 2010 on this journey already. So we have a specific team with we call it Schneider Digital, Schneider Electric Digital, okay, where they are supporting the business, can be in supply chain or the business unit for any drive or development in terms of digitization. I'm giving some of the example. Robotic process automation, one of the example. Some control tower development linked to the EDI. So all those drive and the development in the company is work with the business, like supply chain is demanding is asking for the requirement, and the Schneider digital team is there to support for the deployment part. Okay.
Thank you. I think we have completed our time framework, and there are not many questions that can be taken up, but Shanmukh is back. So would you like to take few questions more forward, or over to Shanmukh? Unmute yourself. Unmute. You're not. You can't be heard, Shanmukh. You can't be heard, so let me take it forward. I think we will end the session here as we have come to the end of the session. And I also thank all the speakers. I request Jaisal to come back and do the needful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Singh, and thank you, Shanmukh. And I would also like to thank all the panelists. Thank you, Serge. Thank you, Shereen. Thank you, Mona, Nermeen, everybody for being there and sharing your wonderful insights. It was a great session. I would also like to thank all the attendees present here. Do join us for our next session coming up on 20th and 27th of this month. We will send you the link for the same. A big thank you to the entire ISCM team, Shanmukh, Yvonne, and everybody for making it happen. And do follow us on social media and visit our websites. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.